My name is Mark Lepettis, and I'm the semiconductor editor of VID00006. And I'm at the Design Automation Conference, and here sitting with me today is Art Kachias, Chief Executive at Synopsys. And we've been talking a little bit about the EDA industry, and one thing I think we're all kind of wondering right now is where are we in the cycle of the semiconductor and EDA industries?
Well, frankly, I think that there's no cycle in the old way. For 30 years there were the up and down cycles of the semiconductor industry. But I think this all changed between 2000 and 2001. There was obviously a big party in 2000 and a big headache in 2001 was the semiconductor industry going down 46%. But really what happened is that there was an inflection point in growth rate. All through the 90s it was 17–18%. Now one can argue what it is, but I would say 5 to 7% or so. And in that process, suddenly the entire semiconductor industry needed to become more efficient. And to become more efficient, you do a number of things. First, you look at your inventory, you look at your processes, and so on. And then you start readjusting the industry to align more in market segments. And we have seen a number of those very recently, where, for example, NXP and ST teamed up on the wireless segment. You decide if you still want to be in manufacturing, and we have seen in the last 24 months many semiconductor people moving out of manufacturing, mostly out of it, to the great benefit of some of the foundries. And last but not least, you start to look at your design processes, and you realize that you're buying EDA from left and right, gluing all of this together in Frankenstein flows that don't particularly work well. And so there's then a gradual shift towards looking at partners that you can work more with. And so you can call this a cycle or not. It's certainly an enormous amount of change, and I think ultimately a positive, because the semiconductor industry has a fabulous future still, but it needs to be more on the ball than it was in the last few years.
Great. Another thing I think we're all looking at it at Design Automation Conference is the EDA model itself. Is it broken? Do we have to rethink how vendors do business, or perhaps you can elaborate on that?
Sure. Well, I'll elaborate from the perspective of Synopsys, of course, and I would argue that it's not broken. I think it's evolving all the time. On the contrary, I would say, we are equally responsible as the technology developers and manufacturers are for the very fact that Moore's Law is alive and well. We actually see another 2 or 3 generations of technology, of new products, of complexity growing, and we're keeping up with that. Now, I'm not saying that design is easy. I'm not saying that anybody can just do it, but the fact is the industry is creating fabulous products and will continue to do so for quite a number of years. Now, in order to do that, yes, there are some things that have to change. And clearly, you have to gradually have a closer relationship with those partners that you're going to count on. And we see it well. Our field engineers are now more and more involved inside of the design teams to actually finish the chips, help in the tape out. Because if our customers are not successful, for sure we won't be. Now, the opposite is not as easily said. To make them successful, you have to work really closely together. And that's why I think the relationships are changing. And Synopsys is absolutely a beneficiary of that, because we have a full, well-integrated solution that really, I think, is starting to be remarkably more efficient in productivity and predictability, which is just as important.
Great. Last but not least, I believe last year you were one of the keynoters at SEMICON West, and many people were kind of surprised to see somebody from the EDA industry at a semiconductor equipment show, which means, have we realized DFM, or are manufacturing people collaborating with design and vice versa, or not?
Well, it was interesting to be at that show, because I remember the speech well, and many people, for them, it was like the first, interaction with somebody from the EDA world. They all know, heavy-duty equipment and expensive lenses and things like that. At the same time, it's very, very clear that the commonality between us is physics. Right? Manufacturing, and especially lithography, has just been amazing. I mean, truly amazing the last 20 years in terms of what they have been able to accomplish in achieving feature sizes that are many, many times smaller than the wavelength of light. Yeah, 193 nanometer wavelength of light to do 32 nanometer devices. How's that possible? Well, magic is a good term, but there's a little bit more to it. Part of the magic is actually EDA tools, because we help these tools, for example, to actually do all the little tricks that you can do to compensate for the light, to readjust it and correct it so that ultimately you get sharp features. Well, that's just one example of really the world of computation and the world of manufacturing being very intertwined through extremely sophisticated algorithms. And so, you know, you're asking, you know, have we covered that gap between design and manufacturing? Well, it's a moving target, right? Every time we're successful, these guys come out with yet a smaller device. And we're now so small that the number of physical effects is just growing like crazy, which of course partially good news for us because we love really tough challenges. But it's quite remarkable what I think together we've been able to do. And I always like to highlight that, you know, we are the industry that has had the single biggest rate of change over the longest period of time in the history of mankind. Well, that's a pretty big statement. So we better not screw up and keep doing it.
Okay, thank you very much.